name's Philip John, and welcome to this episode. Today we're going to be talking about stress. We're going to work around three questions. 1, what is stress? 2, how we can limit our stress levels or our stress response. And 3, how we can use stress to our advantage. Before I begin, I first want to make the announcement. If you are having any medical problems or seeking medical advice, I highly recommend go seek a medical professional, go see a doctor. Do not take any of what I say as professional advice. Everything I say is from my own opinion. Awesome. All right. First question, what is stress? Well, fundamentally, stress is your body's ability to respond to a danger or to a need. You probably would have heard many times that the fight and flight response. We use that often as a way to indicate when someone is in stress or how you feel when you're in a stress moment. You want to either fight the situation or run away from the situation. I like to put it in the aspect of your body's responding to a danger or a need. The reason I say it like that is because in current times, we tend to not be aware of, we don't always put intention to everything that we do. And for example, if you're going through school, the only time you react in a very fright-filled manner is when you have an assessment or a deadline. We tend to say, oh, I'm quite stressed, or this is stressing me out. When in reality, what your body's trying to do is pretty much heighten your senses or put you in a state of prepare or in a state of, like I said, fight or flight. And it does that by expanding your eyes, where your eyes dilate a bit more, making your senses a bit more heightened. All those things add to the effect of having a more quicker and stronger response to what is observed as danger. That is what stress is in that very moment, or in for some people it can be an extended period of time. But that in those situations you would need to go seek a medical professional to kind of understand why you're stressed for long periods at a time. Number 2, how to limit your stress response. To limit your stress response, you first must understand what is stress and how it can, how you may be triggered by it. I think this is more of a new term where we hear quite often when we say the word, I feel quite triggered or I'm triggered. A lot of times we don't, I'm not going to make a medical professional aspect of that, but in majority of cases, you're not really triggered. To be honest, you're more or less, you create a response to something that is not of a danger or that is not of a harm to you. For example, a lot of times we navigate a certain word to cause a trigger when you feel a certain manner. I think that is what people are trying to say they classify as a trauma response. And there are people that actually medically have a trauma response to certain events, certain experiences, and they would classify that as a traumatic experience. That is very real. However, we limited some of this experience to say, oh, this assignment is quite traumatizing. But in reality, it's just simply that it gives you a bad feeling towards that. So what I'm trying to say is everything that we experience is our body or our mind's ability to process what's going on. So what that means is when you see a certain event or experience a certain aspect or doing certain things and you react to it, you have to understand what is causing that reaction. A lot of times it's not really caused by anything, but your response to it is what changes. For example, if I were to, I keep using the assessment for a lot. I study, so I'm going to be saying that quite a bit. But let's say, for example, if I have a deadline for a work project, I understand that if I don't achieve that deadline, there's going to be consequences towards that. So I'll know that things will not go well if I don't do the best that I can to achieve that. in that moment, I'm going to feel stress. The reason I feel stress is because I know that I need to pick up my pace, I need to do better, or I need to achieve a certain goal. How am I going to respond to that to mitigate it? Well, first, like what I just did, I went through the process of what is going to happen. Okay, I have a deadline that's due, let's say in a week. I know that if I don't do anything, it won't go good. However, if I do something about it, schedule hours or minutes throughout the day to do something, or to work on studying, or work on achieving certain goals, which mitigate my stress. The reason I say mitigate my stress is because when you are aware that you're achieving certain things, or getting closer to doing things that brings you closer to improving the outcome, your stress levels decrease. I'm not going to go into the more metaphysical of that, but if you want to understand the anatomy behind it, or the sensory aspect of it, I highly recommend you watch Dr. Huberman's podcast on YouTube. He goes into depth understanding of what that process is, how that process is actually done, and he explains it in more simple terms for majority of people like us to understand. Okay, so now I've pretty much broken down what stress is. I've allowed you to pretty much see the perspective of how stress can be put upon you or put upon others. Now, to mitigate, first we need to know what's causing the stress. Deadline. 2, find ways to plan through that process. Plan ahead on what you can do to decrease the outcome, which you would say a negative outcome or a danger. How do you decrease that danger? You would do certain things to obviously study ahead, plan ahead, achieve certain goals before that point, so that when you get to that point, it's already done. Okay, what else can you do to limit your response to it? Well, you could meditate. I know this might sound quite out of bound, but allowing yourself to sit and simply think through the process, I would say in the form of a meditation or in the form of relaxing, that helps you or majority of people to kind of sit still and take in the experience. Not only taking the experience, but to slow it down so that the experience doesn't become large. Because what we often do is, when we know something is stressing us, we add other stresses, which builds upon that, which makes it even worse. So to limit that, you can sit still in that moment, breathe, understand that that stress is simply due to how I'm responding to it. So how you respond to it is what will happen. If I respond negative towards it, most likely the outcome will become negative. If I respond positive to it and do things that is going to improve that situation, the outcome is more likely to improve. Okay, so then you would say, okay, what do I do? Like the things I've listed earlier. Relax, meditate on it. Look at the process of what needs to be done. Plan ahead. Address the situation. Obviously, that's a stressful situation. Okay. Sorry about that. The light's a bit, I don't know, it's a bit different today. Okay, like I said, address the situation, relax. Plan ahead on what you can do to improve the situation, and don't add more stresses into it. Naturally, we're going to add more stresses into it because we're always going to look at the negative things. We point towards what else is going to be a problem, what else is a danger. And to I guess mitigate that is to allow yourself to think positively, to focus more on the positive aspect of it, which is the half full or half low water. I mean, like cup half full, cup half empty. You need to have a cup half full positive attitude towards life and towards everything that you go through in that day-to-day stresses or day-to-day things that you need to achieve, or we need to achieve during those days. All right, let's go to the next question. How do we use stress to our advantage? All right, To use stress, we must first understand what stress is, which I explained in the first question. What is stress? Stress is your body's response to a danger or to a need. Okay, now that we understand that, what are things that cause us stress? It could be from your job, from your studies, from your family. Identify those stresses. Okay, now let's say for example of work. You know that when you go to work, you have to do certain things which is going to cause you to feel bad, feel sluggish, feel like you don't want to go into work today. Okay. What you can do is point out, okay, when I go to work, I know these things are going to be a problem. How can I make that situation better? You can just navigate different things, how to improve that situation. Let's say I go into work, I'll say, okay, I can improve this situation by bringing a positive attitude towards it, or by working harder than I would before. I know this might sound silly, but if you actually work harder than you usually do, you give yourself an initiative to do things. You give yourself an initiative to change an outcome. I know in majority of workplaces, working harder is not going to improve the job flow, but it gives you a sense of purpose towards something. Instead of going to work to do what's needed and just do what the job is asking you to do, have an objective towards it. Have an objective to say, okay, I want to do this, or do extra this, or do more this, so that you have an objective. Not only do you have an objective, that when you get there and achieve those things, you're going to feel good about yourself. You're going to feel like you've done something to not only improve the situation at work, but to, help you focus in on what needs to be done. Okay, that's one aspect of how to use stress at advantage. 2, stress heightens your ability. It heightens your senses. Knowing that, what that means is that when you go through a stressful situation, understand you're going to overanalyze the situation. For a majority of people, you might overanalyze the situation and think of many different variables, many different things. Use that to your advantage. If you overanalyze, and a lot of times you're going to point many different things that don't add to the situation. What you can do to mitigate that, or to simplify that a bit more, is to simply address what is the good information and what is not the good information. Because you can't stop someone from overthinking, but you can narrow down that overthinking and focus in on the things that might give you positive aspects, or might help you push forward to that. All right, so let's go do a reround of what's happened today. I went into what is stress. Stress is your body's ability to respond to a danger or a need. How to limit your stress response. Address the danger, address the problem. Find ways to mitigate that situation, which is to give yourself small goals to achieve while you get to that aspect of what's causing you stress. Or you could have a time to relax, absorb the situation, and look at the positive aspect of what you can do to change that outcome or progress to a better resolution. And 3, how to use stress to your advantage. Don't think of stress as a negative thing. Use stress as a way to heighten your ability to focus, to narrow down your focus, more aligned to what the issue is, and simply find solution to that aspect. That's about it. I hope this helped with you understanding what stress is and how you can use stress to improve the situation that you have. Peace.